Hello and welcome to FootballFan.Zone, where we give you insight from the inside. Today we're speaking to Alan Curbishley, former Premier League manager, about the English sides in Europe on match day 2 in the Champions League. Chelsea, Liverpool, Arsenal and Manchester City. Get his thoughts on how they're going to progress out of the group. Curbs, Manchester City in a tough group. Because they're not seeded, they're always going to get a tough group. Bayern Munich again. They come up against Roma, a decent Italian side. They've got 1 point out of a possible 6, and it's not looking particularly great for them. No,
and I think Pellegrini may well have to start looking at his tactics. It's very difficult to go into teams, top European teams, and go in with 2 strikers. I know all the fans want to see 2 strikers, but you look at all the good sides, they play 1 main striker, and it's 4-3-3 or 4-5-1, whatever you want to do. And I think he keeps persisting with Dzeko and Aguero. He's got to go with one of them, unfortunately for me, because I don't think he can get a foothold in the game.
And why is that? Why would he go 2 up front? Because I don't know a European club that does that. Away from home, I can kind of get the 5, but at home, has he not got an argument to say we should be winning these games? Yeah. We should take the game to Roma?
It's very similar to what he's done in the Premier League. I think that last season he was possibly one of the only managers in the Premier League that went with 2 strikers, out and out 2 strikers, which causes problems for your midfield, as you well know. And I think when you're playing against a 4-3-3 and it's a particularly strong midfield 3, it's very, very difficult. And I think that he probably wants to make the games open. He probably feels that if a game becomes open, he's got enough flair in that side to score enough goals. But he's not getting the results in Europe, so I think he may have to start revisiting his tactics.
And also, he's making changes at the back. Malanga, who played alongside Company, which seems a decent penalty. He brought Di Michaelis in, he dropped Joe Hart, brought Joe Hart back in. So those 3, there were 2 changes out of those 3 from the weekend.
Yeah, and I can't quite get that. I can't quite understand what he's trying to do. Mangala's come in. He needs game time. He needs to be playing with them players to get up to speed. He missed the start of the season. And I don't think you mess about with your goalkeeper. I think you've got a number 1, and he's your number 1. Until such a stage where that number 1's mucked up, or he's injured, or you've got to make a change, whatever, then it's a permanent. It's not keep mixing and matching. I can't see that either. So I think Pellegrini, he learned very quickly last year in the Premier League, because I think he, away from home early on in the Premier League, come unstuck, and he soon changed the way he attacked away games. I think the Champions League, he's got to come up with something now, because okay, Bayern Munich away, very difficult. But if he thinks he's got any chance of progressing, he's got to win them home games. And to win them home games, you need to have a foothold in the game. He got off to a great start, but slowly but surely Roma got back into that game and were always threatening and always looked as if they was going to, get back and equalise, which is what they did.
1 point out of 6. They now have to go to Russia the next game, back-to-back against CSKA Moscow. They have to win away, which is not the easiest job when you've got 6 points at this stage.
No, if they got to win there, because you're asking them to go and win at Roma. And the way Roma started the season, and the way they've been playing, so it's very difficult. So I think the next 2 games for Man City are going to decide their European future.
Okay, let's move on to Chelsea. Stuttered at home, picking up only 1 point in the opening game, going away to Sporting, absolutely dominated the game. It's the most convincing 1-0 victory I've seen in a long time, but hanging on a bit towards the end.
Well, you always are if you've only got that 1 goal, but I think Mourinho. Totally different to Pellegrini. There's no messing about with the team. If you close your eyes, I've said it before, there's 8 players that are in that team, come rain or shine, and he might mess about with 1 or 2 of the outfield players, the flair players, if you like. But he knows exactly what he's going to get from his side, and they went and done a professional job. As you say, the first game wasn't the best, but they bounced back straight away, no damage done, and they. Now, I think they look as strong as I can remember. When he was there before and they was winning everything, any other manager's been there before, Ancelotti, etc., when they was flying, they look as strong now as they've ever looked, Chelsea.
And now, Maribor, they play back-to-back. On paper, the easiest group easiest games in the group. If they pick up 6 out of that, that's 10 points, they're through.
And they can put that to bed. They can put the group stage to bed. They can rotate the squad. They can give 1 or 2 players a game that need it and rest certain players for the Premier League. So I think he would like to get it finished as soon as possible. And I think he's so calculated. He's already probably looking at that and looking at, after he's played Maribor for the second time, who they got on the Saturday or who they got on the Sunday in the Premier League. You know, he's full of confidence.
OK, Basel 1, Liverpool 0. Tough place, Basel. This is a side that beat Chelsea home and away last season in the Champions League. I think they knocked out Arsenal or one other big club, English club. Man United, I think it was,
yeah.
in a couple of seasons ago. So this is a side that another way around Europe, a good side. Liverpool looked, I thought, shocking.
I don't know if they underestimated Basel, Liverpool, on the night. Team selection. I'm looking at Brendan Rodgers in respect of our experience. He's not a very experienced manager in terms of total games. Certainly in Europe, none. So I think I'm looking at the other 3 managers. You've got Mourinho, Arsene Wenger and Pellegrini, vastly experienced. And what Brendan is struggling with at the moment, I think, is juggling up his squad for the Premier League, then the Champions League games. So many changes to the squad with all the signings he's made. And I think the expectation level has gone through the roof for Liverpool after last season. And now he's got pressures that he's never had to deal with before, Brendan Rodgers. And I don't think he's handling them particularly well. And, you know, some of the comments that have come out after Basel game, some of the comments perhaps attributed to Balotelli, etc. And you've even got Steven Gerrard coming out saying that we're too soft and we took it too lightly and we didn't adapt, we didn't prepare, whatever. You know, I think that there's a few problems at Liverpool.
So what do you do with Balotelli? You've been a manager. He looks, I mean, no doubt in the boy's ability. I don't think he gives, at times, Liverpool enough up front. I don't think he gives them enough options in terms of coming to feet, in terms of turning in behind. I don't think his link-up play, particularly at times, is great. I don't think he fights enough when he loses the ball. Unless he scores goals, you think, what does he bring to the
Well, I think Balotelli is an easy target. I think you can look at him and pin it all on him. Where I think it's a little bit more deeper than that. I think the recruitment, so many changes to that side. And when you consider, OK, they've lost Suarez, which was massive problem to lose Suarez. But I don't think Brendan went out and recruited as well as he should have done. I think he's done at Tottenham. I think he's brought too many players into that squad. Instead of perhaps just spending most of the money on 3 or 4 marquee signings, he spread it all around, and now he's got selection problems. He's got... the one thing he's lost that energy up top with Suarez and Sturridge. Add Sterling to that. It was a real trio. It was a real triangle of strikers. And what has happened is, obviously no Suarez, Sturridge out injured and Sterling struggling for form a little bit. He's suddenly lost everything up top.
Well, the dynamism that they used to have, the pace, they scared the hell out of the Premier League. They were devastating.
Yeah.
They were ruthless in front of goal. Steven Gerrard's a year older. He doesn't dominate and dictate games the way that he used to. Sterling, you're absolutely right. He's only 19.
I know.
You talk about a young boy, you can't rely on a 19-year-old to drag you through the season. They've lost Suarez. Sturridge will come back and take a bit of time to find his feet. This is a worrying time for Liverpool.
It's a bit of a problem. And I think that, when you lose, in all fairness, when Suarez went, you lost 35 goals, you lost all that energy, all that effervescence, the problems he calls back fours, and the enthusiasm. Put Balotelli in that place now, you're not seeing any of that. And you touched on Steven Gerrard. Steven Gerrard was so effective picking a ball up and picking out runs of Suarez. Well, there's no runs. Yeah. Without Sturridge up there, there's no one who really wants to go in behind back fours. So back fours are quite happy seeing Balotelli in front of them. So it is a problem for Liverpool. I think Brendan has backed himself in a little bit of a corner. And when he signed Balotelli, one thing that came out what really troubled me was, well, he's a bargain. And I looked at that and thought, forget how much money it was. When you're in the top 4, It ain't about getting bargains. It's about getting people that can come in and do the job. And I thought that if you had £100 million to spend and you just lost your best player, then surely 30-odd million for Costa, Falcao, a marquee centre-forward that will not need to hit the ground running, will have an instant impact. And unfortunately now, I think that, as you said earlier, I think a lot of people are looking at Balotelli. They've forgotten that Liverpool changed both fullbacks. They've forgotten that they brought a centre-back in. 3 changes to the back 5. They've brought midfield players in. And also, obviously, brought striker in Balotelli and Lambert, Lallana, etc. I just think there's just been too much upheaval at Anfield. And I think they need to get back to a settled side. I think they need to get back, certainly with Sturridge up top, giving them that running power. And I think that Brendan will have to learn quickly how to juggle up the demands of the Premier League and the Champions League.
Back-to-back games against Real Madrid. I mean, you're talking, just when you need a result. The first one, I believe, is at Anfield. You've got to win that game, really, when you're looking at the situation, because chances of picking up points away at Real Madrid are slim. You could be looking at Liverpool going to the last 2 games just on 3 points. Yeah.
And I think that they'd have seen that perhaps there's been lost opportunities in the last 2 games.
OK, let's turn over. You mentioned Balotelli, £16 million. I think Arsenal picked up a bargain at £16 million in Danny Welbeck, who on the same night picked up a hat-trick. A lot of comparisons were made between the 2 players. Just, I think, less than a year in date of birth as well. What Balotelli doesn't give you, Welbeck certainly does, in terms of energy, enthusiasm, movement, power, determination. Well,
yeah, I mean, it's easy now to look at it and go, well, Welbeck's, a steal or a better acquisition than Balotelli. As I say, I think it's easy to pin a lot of the blame at Liverpool's woes on Balotelli. But going back to Welbeck, there's a couple of things that go into Welbeck's situation. For the last couple of years, under Alex Ferguson and David Moyes, he was asked to play in various positions. He obviously couldn't force his way down the middle with Van Persie. Van Persie went in their first season, scored all them goals, they won the league.
And Rooney before that.
And then, when he thinks he might have a chance this year, Falcao comes in. So it's been very, very difficult. But I said at the time, I thought that Danny Welbeck, once he gets games under his belts, once he knows he's playing, once he wakes up in the morning and he knows he's in that team, you're going to see the real Danny Welbeck. And I know that Alex Ferguson swore by Danny Welbeck. Whenever you spoke to him, whenever you had a conversation about Welbeck, he had nothing but admiration for him. So I think he will, deep down, be very, very disappointed. But just going back to Danny Welbeck himself, his attributes, yeah, he runs in behind defences. If I'm a midfield player, and they've got some quality ones at Arsenal, if I'm Ramsey, Cazorla, Ozil, Wilshere,
Sanchez,
and I see people, and I see Welbeck making them runs, going in between fullbacks, going in between centre halves, it's a delight to play. You can flip a ball over the back 4, and you've got an opportunity. Well, no disrespect to Giroud, who's got other attributes, but as a midfield player for Arsenal, you see Giroud coming towards you because Giroud can't go that way. So it's a different dynamic to the Arsenal team now.
It makes the pitch smaller, of course, when he's coming towards you.
Absolutely, and Danny Welbeck, with his running power going in behind, and his finishing. I mean, lots of people talk about perhaps missed chances, but Danny Welbeck is not afraid to go in there to miss, right? And that's a big thing. You see a lot of centre forwards, perhaps not having the best of times. They sort of hide when the ball's coming in the box. So, but he goes in there to miss. I'm so pleased for him because I think he needed to make the move, and I think that he would have been quite prepared. No disrespect, but he just needed to get away from Old Trafford because he needed to play first-team football. Now, when you look at it, he couldn't have gone to Liverpool for obvious reasons. Chelsea won around. So, going to another Champions League club was a fantastic move for him. And he's got the comfort that he knows that the other centre-forward's out injured for some time, and he's got an opportunity to establish himself. So it's been a fantastic bit of business.
And he's doing it for club and country as well. 2 goals, of course, away in Switzerland, playing exactly the same role. It was Galatasaray, let's say that right, but you can only beat who's in front of you. I thought
Absolutely.
some of the finishes were excellent. Strength, pace, composure, which is what you need as a striker. Arsenal now turned that group around, do you think? The disappointment of losing away so convincingly at Dortmund?
Well, you're right about the opposition. And I think that when they played Dortmund, I think we saw a lot of Arsenal's failings. A lot of Arsenal's failings in the Premier League against the top sides, and certainly away from home, as we saw last season. And it showed up again against Dortmund. So I think there's still a lot of work to be done for Arsenal. Going to Galatasaray away is going to be difficult for obvious reasons. But I do think Arsene Wenger, and I know it's very difficult sometimes, he may just have to show a bit more respect to one or two of the other sides he's playing against in the Champions League and Premier League, and perhaps have a different mindset in certain games. He went to Dortmund and decided to have a go and to take the game to them and got badly hurt. And
He done it away at Liverpool last season.
Yeah.
He done it away at Manchester City last season. He done it away at Chelsea last
Absolutely.
season. And had his collar felt in a big way.
Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying about, can he change his mindset? Can he sort of...
Has he got the players to do that? Because,
Well,
I mean, you think about some of the players that he recruits. He recruits attacking, technically gifted midfielders.
Absolutely.
What you probably need, if you were to put in a Mascherano in the Arsenal side, it would give a very different look and feel about it.
Or a Matic. Because I think that perhaps, he's got to go against the grain a little bit sometimes and perhaps pick and have a more defensive attitude, certainly when he's playing the top sides, and that means in Europe and the top four in the Premier League. So, massive game coming up against Chelsea in the Premier League. I've got to see his team selection and the way he goes about it, because last season he was 3 down before he even sat down in his dugout, so against Chelsea. But going back to the Champions League with Arsenal, I think that the game against Galatasaray would have given them great confidence. They know they can score a goal. So I think that they'll be quite confident that they're going to get through to the next stage.
Manchester City, 1 point out of 6 so far. Are they going to get out of the group?
I think they're going to fall just short.
Chelsea, top on 4 points. The teams behind them have all drawn. So
Now Chelsea obviously to go through.
Liverpool, 3 points. Real Madrid got coming up home and away next game. Is that one a bit of a harder one to predict, that one, isn't it?
I don't think they're going to get anything out of them 2 games against Real Madrid. So they're going to have to win the next 2.
Away at Ludogorets.
And home to Basel. Can be done, but I think they're just going to fall short again.
And Arsenal, 3 points out of a possible 6.
No, I think Arsenal will go through, because I think I've talked a lot about their defensive woes, but with that firepower, they should have enough to pick up enough points to go through. So for me, it's Chelsea and Arsenal.